All right, so to introduce Renee. Renee has had an extensive international career on a wide range of events and roles from technical, operational to stage management. She spent many years at the Sydney Opera House with a focus on managing the outdoor events, including multiple Australian Idols, New Year's Eve celebrations, concert series, just to name a few. And she's worked internationally on many sporting events in both the technical and sport presentation fields in all corners of the globe. After having the opportunity to visit Qatar for the first time in 2006 for the Doha Asian Games, where she was the production manager for sport presentation across 42 venues, she was inspired by the Qatari hospitality and the Qatari people and their ability to produce amazing events. Renee returned to Qatar in 2011 to deliver the Arab Games again in the field of sport presentation. And in 2015, Renee made the leap to move full-time to Qatar, where she's been in multiple venue operational and events roles ever since. She was lucky enough to work with Live Nation as the director of events to manage 2 arenas within Qatar. For the past 3 years, Renee has been in the position of senior event manager for the Supreme Committee for Delivery and Legacy, who will be delivering the FIFA World Cup 2022. Can't wait to talk about that. And it is the biggest event in the world. In this role, Renee manages the events team responsible for delivering all event operations for all events and activations associated with the FIFA World Cup. She has successfully led the team to deliver multiple new stadium opening ceremonies, award ceremonies across many tournaments, as well as many infotainment and sport presentations for all local, regional, and international tournaments. The team also delivers draws, dinners, exhibitions, and launches associated with local, regional, and international tournaments and events. She works with an incredibly talented and inspiring team, which is why she loves working in Qatar. No 2 days are ever the same, and she has just returned from Russia. Welcome, Renee, to TheatreArtLife.
Thanks, Anna. Thank you for having me today. It's a pleasure to be here and really exciting to chat and tell everyone a little bit about my experience here in Qatar and, of course, you know, my journey from Australia to Qatar over many years.
Yeah, well, it's wonderful to have you here. You have to excuse my kids in the background. They're upstairs, I think. So tell us a little bit about we're going to talk about your journey and your work in Qatar, but tell us a little bit about your work in Australia and what kind of jobs you worked on and your involvement in the Sydney Opera House.
Yeah, for sure. So for me, I guess I started out, in the industry quite young. I was always very, very interested in performing arts. I danced for a very long time. And at school was very much involved. Anna, you're very familiar with it. I know the Rocker Stedford. You and I worked there for a long time together. So I think from a young age, I sort of had I think I caught the entertainment or the events bug, as you can say. And I guess when I finished school, I went off to do a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Technical Production with a major in sort of stage management and event management. And from there, I had the opportunity to do some secondments with Great Big Events, where I worked on the 2003 Rugby World Cup in Brisbane. And then, of course, from there, seconded also with the Rocker Stedford, which I think, Anna, that's where you and I met when I was quite young.
We were both young then.
And from there, I guess once I finished university, I went on to work with the Rocker Stedford for multiple years on their Australian tour as the assistant stage manager, which was, I think the very, very start of my career. But at the same time, I was also working with Great Big Events as one of their sport producers or venue producers, I guess you can say, for a range of events. So there was the Commonwealth Games was in there. There was also many rugby tournaments. There was also, and I'm sure you remember, the Entertaining Angels at the Sydney Entertainment Centre.
Oh my gosh, I completely forgot about that gig. I think I erased it from my memory because it was so tumultuous.
So look, there was multiple events that I sort of, was able to sort of sink my teeth into, I think, which then led to with a position at the Sydney Opera House as the event account manager. And mainly for that one, I looked after a lot of the outdoor events. So on the Sydney Opera House forecourt, and of course, a lot of the commercial events. So when I say commercial events, it was more about the big events that would come in that were not sort of Sydney Opera House produced events. They were more so your Janet Jacksons, your Liza Minnellis, your Dionne Warwicks. So the commercial events that would come in with the touring teams from Frontier Touring, Michael Chugg, those sort of events. the Opera Australia were also my client as well. So I looked after when they would come in for their season. So I look after all their, integrate them within the Sydney Opera House and all the functional areas within the Sydney Opera House, and obviously take care of their financial aspects as well, in terms of, ticket sales and making sure that they were getting all their financial finances back to them through ticket sales and revenue. Look, it was certainly an interesting time at the Sydney Opera House when I first came in there. They weren't doing a lot of outdoor events. It was the forecourt is a little bit challenging, being a heritage listed building. There's lots of rules and regulations. There's the Pope license, which is the public place of entertainment license that you had to go through to be able to do these events, and they were quite strict on those restrictions around what you could actually do on the forecourt. So when I sort of came in, I was working under Catherine Hindley. I think you know Catherine, Anna. She was an amazing mentor for me and gave me the opportunity to really step up there. Even though I was quite young when I started there, she gave me the really amazing opportunity to step up and actually really lead on these projects, mainly around the forecourt. So basically what my job was there is to the bookings would come in, and then I would be very much the client-facing person to then come and integrate that event within the Sydney Opera House services. So that could be across the security, that could be across the facilities management, so in terms of the power, in terms of water, in terms of whatever it may be, and of course the technical aspects too. So anything we needed from the staging team, the lighting team, the sound team, whatever it may be, I would put together those, or stage management of course as well. I would put together their requirements, and then I would share that with those functional areas so that we could all come together to deliver the project. So just there, you could see just a couple of the events that I worked on. As I said, Australian Idol every year. So I became very, very close with the Australian Idol team, working with them every year for, I think it must have been 4 or 5 Australian Idols. So that was a very cool experience. Obviously live broadcast. Wow. That always had a few challenges, it was always sort of, look, it was very organised, but, there was always a few challenges there. One year we lost power in the middle of the broadcast. So that was a bit of a challenge, but we overcome that and we had it sort of back up and running after 1 minute. But look, and again, with this, it was all obviously managing the financial side too, because we had to bring in infrastructure for the forecourt. So when I talk sort of infrastructure, it was really around the, bringing in toilets, bringing in extra generators if they were required, site sheds, air conditioning. And, it was, in terms of the Opera House, everything needed to be, a certain colour and set up a certain way, because, you can't lose that aesthetic for the tourists or people coming into the Opera House to see, some people may come only one day and they don't want to see all this infrastructure in their view to the Opera House. So, we were very specific about how we set up that site so that we didn't lose those aesthetics. And it was also had to be made very, very safe. Because it's an international, it's an international icon. It's a national icon as well. So, anything that happened there, if there was any incidents, it would be an international incident. So we're also very, very safe around, obviously loading the crowd, getting people in, getting people out. Very particular about how many people we could get in on the site as well, and how the ticket checkpoint was how it was all managed. And of course, the security checkpoints through mag and bags and everything like that it was all managed very safe and securely. So, I think my relationships with all the functional areas at Sydney Opera House, I was very, very close with all of them and worked very, 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 very closely with all of them to deliver these events. We also delivered Oprah. That was a very unique event. It was an amazing event to work on. It was something that I don't think I'd ever had the opportunity to work on something like that, and I probably never will again, but she was amazing to work with, and her people were just, they came in, they were so organised and they knew what they wanted. And I do remember, bumping it in, it was about 45 degrees or 40 degrees for some days. It was just so hot. But look, we delivered it and it was amazing. And, it was an amazing experience to work with her and her team, and they're just so well organised and it's like a machine that just comes in and they know what they want and they deliver. So that was something.
I think it's wonderful. I think it's wonderful that when you do work in a venue such as that, the variety of projects that do come through, and it's not, like you said, it's not just the opera and it's not just the theatre. There's so much more that goes on in the forecourt of the Opera House, and even in the concert hall. Over the years, they've done some amazing, interesting projects there that are not necessarily what you think you'd put in a concert hall, right?
Absolutely. Look, in my time there, I mean, I was there for almost 6.5 years. Look, and in my time there, I saw some amazing things go into the concert hall. It just wasn't, concerts. It just wasn't symphony. It just wasn't, traditional things. I was in there for Biennale, where they put the forest in there, so it was full of trees. They basically took all the seats out, and it was basically you could walk through the concert hall, and it was, as I said, full of trees. So that was something that was quite unique and quite special. But look, as I said, there was never 2 days that were the same there. There was always something different. And I was also always working on multiple projects at once. So, I would often have about 4 or 5 projects on the go, maybe more. It would depend on the season. Obviously, in the season of, the summer season there, when you've got sort of New Year's Eve going on, you've got Idol going on, you've got Sydney Festival going on, you'd often have, back-to-back events. Another unique event that I did there was what they call Slaughter at the Opera, which was actually, we put a skateboard ramp in the front of Sydney Opera House. And then we had a skateboard tournament. It was, a full like half pipe and like a grinding sort of thing. And it was, it was broadcast. Of course, it was internationally broadcast. We had some international skaters there. So that was, it was really, I think in my time there at the Opera House, it was really trying to open up the Opera House and prove that it was open for everybody, not just the opera, not just the ballet, not just the symphony. So, I think when I was there, it was a really exciting time for the Opera House to really open it up to multiple demographics and a wide range of audiences. So it was exciting to see that. And look, certainly for New Year's Eve, that was always an interesting one because we have so many people down there and there's such a mixture of people down there, to be honest, New Year's Eve, it was probably one of the hardest days of the year for me because it was, you'd have to be there at sort of 3 o'clock in the morning, putting the toilets in for the general public that would just come to watch the fireworks. And you'd still be there at 3 o'clock the following morning. So it was ultimately a 24-hour day.
Gosh.
But it was interesting because, you'd have your people that sort of came and camped out there overnight to get their spots to watch the fireworks. Obviously, that was, the premium location to watch the bridge fireworks there, to watch the harbour fireworks, to watch what's going on in the harbour. So it was a particularly interesting event because you have to manage the site. And my job for New Year's Eve was to manage the entire site. So to make sure that, you could facilitate the operations around that crowd that would come in, a non-ticketed crowd, as we'd call it. And then also make sure that the ticketed crowd, which was coming in for the opera gala, that were coming in for the Lord Mayor's party at the back, they could actually come in and access the site later on as well. So it was like a giant puzzle coming together. So, we had to be very, very careful around, having that audience come in, the non-ticketed audience come in early. And look, to be honest, that sort of that audience and that part of the site was always full by about 12 or 1 p.m. So you'd have to watch what was happening to make the call to shut the site down at a certain time so that you could still allow access for the people that come in at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock to go to the opera gala, to go to other things. So you always needed to maintain access for these people that would come in a separate way. And I mean, as you know, Anna, you work there as well. Anything that happens at the Opera House also impacts the rest of the city. So, for example, when we shut down our site, the rest of the city then backs up. So you need to be able to make that call early enough so that all the signage could change up the rest of the city, so you don't get this bottleneck down towards the Opera House. So that was always very challenging. And look, it was interesting when we shut the site down. We went through the whole process, and we radioed through to the police command centre and the event command centre. We need to change the VMS. And look, after a couple of years, I think I did about 7 New Year's Eves there. I think we had a pretty good process. But look, it was interesting. We always had people coming, and I've never seen anything like it in my life. We always had people coming with every excuse under the sun to try and tell me why they needed to come into the Sydney Opera House. Even though the site was at capacity, we would have people turning up with invoices saying, but I've worked at the Sydney Opera House. I've changed the light bulb, or I've done this, or I've done that. They wanted to get into the site. So it was just, or my family's in there. Well, how come your family's in there and you're not in there? There was always some excuse that was just, I've seen it all. I've heard it all. So in the end, what we had to do is we had to get because the Sydney Opera House has its own set of security, specialised security team. And what we had to do in the end was choose these specific guys that actually had been working as bouncers at the club. So they knew how to deal with these type of people that wanted to try and get in and they couldn't. So we used to put our biggest and our burliest security guards at that front checkpoint, to know how to deal with these people, just basically to sort of send them away and say, sorry, we're full, we can't help you. It doesn't matter if you've come with your receipt that you've, fixed the light bulb or fixed what you wanted to fix. But look, that's certainly it was an amazing experience, and I learnt so much there, and there was some amazing people that I had the opportunity to work with that really set up some really good skill sets for me, that I've sort of taken on and used now in my career, and to get where I am, and to learn to be, I guess, diplomatic and work with people and be, I guess, how I am now and how I sort of work now is because of all those skills that I learnt there at the Sydney Opera House. So.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's an amazing experience.
Yeah. So did you first start in sports presentation through great big events? And is that what led you into, what was the Doha Asian Games? Is that what led you there? Or?
So what happened was, it was interesting. So in terms of sport pres, I guess I started actually stage managing with GBE so I think there was the Rugby World Cup was the first one for me when I was still at university. I seconded with them. And, I think for me, the first time I went onto the field of play and was able to be there, to hear the anthem go and be out there to do that, to listen to the crowd roar when you've got Australia playing and you've got, it's a semi-final for the Rugby World Cup. It's something that you just can't explain, when you can't hear your comms and you're in the middle of the field of play and the crowd is just, it's just insane. And I think from the first time that I sort of experienced that, I thought, wow, it's amazing to be part of this sort of sporting event, and it's amazing to be, have this feeling that I think only a certain, obviously athletes feel it all the time, but for someone that's not an athlete by any means, have the opportunity to experience that and be on the field of play at such a huge event. I guess, again, I caught that bug and I was like, wow, I want to be part of this and I want to experience this. So from then, I think I stage managed quite a lot of events with GBE. I did the Rugby World Cup. I did, as I said, Entertaining Angels at the Sydney Entertainment Centre. I also had the opportunity to work on, now this was amazing, the match between Uruguay and Australia, where Australia went into penalties and Australia got into the World Cup over Uruguay. I was actually there for that match and on the field of play when they kicked that final penalty and Australia got through to the World Cup. I was on field of play when that happened. And that was just, even now, just thinking of that, it gives me goosebumps because it was just so. I think it was John Aloisi kicked that winning penalty, and it was just, it was just something that you can't express how incredible it was. I think from there, I got the opportunity to work on the Melbourne 2006. The Commonwealth Games. So for that, I was the show caller for the table tennis, which was a little bit interesting. I've never.
That's a thing.
It's a thing. I've never show called table tennis before in my life. I had been working on the aquatics program a little bit, so I was very familiar with the swimming and working with the swimming and show calling the swimming. But the opportunity came up to actually show call the table tennis for the Commonwealth Games. And look, it actually turned out to be very, very cool. There was actually quite a lot of spectators, and we managed to get the arena pumping, which was good. And look, sport presentation for those, infotainment as we call it for FIFA events, it's really about everything in the venue or what spectators can hear, feel and see during the sporting session or during the tournament or whatever it may be. So obviously you have the broadcast that's going out for people that, that are sitting at home, but sport presentation is really about, what's happening in the arena and creating an atmosphere or in the stadium or arena or venue or whatever it may be. So it's really for the people that are on the ground and they're experiencing that. So, to actually produce that on the fly sometimes, and you actually need to react to what's going on in the audience, it's something that's very, very cool. So, you have the ability to play some music, which is really going to hype up the crowd. You have the ability to get your announcer out there, to get your MC out there and actually really hype up the crowd. And, it can really affect the athletes too. It's, by the type of music you're playing, how they're introduced. So it's something that's really, it's really interesting to see how the athletes actually react to it too. Sometimes you obviously have to go through approvals with music, but you actually can find out prior to the matches or whatever it may be, if there's a club song or something, and often you can play that club song and you'll see the spectators react and you'll see the athletes react to it. So to have the ability to do that and actually really have, I guess, input into what's going on in the stadium, it's a very cool feeling.
And it's a lot more fluid than, a normal show call in a show or anything like that, because anything can happen in a game, right? So you've got to react on what's happening in the game.
Absolutely. And look, you always have, your standard cue sheet as you normally would. You have your set, your TVCs or your sponsor commitments that you have to roll out. You would have, a standard lot of vision packages that you have to roll out. But, sometimes when the game's happening or something's happening in the match, or depending on what sport it is, you can actually be a little bit creative and, yes, on the fly. So, for swimming, for example, you don't know who's going to touch that wall. Obviously, you have your favourites and you know who could be. So you line up those tracks, specifically for, who you think is going to win. So when they hit the wall, you can play a celebration song that's, that's related to that particular athlete. Or, at the end of a football match, when a certain team wins, you can roll out a special track that's for them. But yes, it's very, very fluid, and you need to have your operators need to be on the ball. And, you need to be on the ball and watching what's happening all the time, especially for a football match. Obviously when a goal is scored, you don't know when that's going to happen. And when a goal is scored, usually we have what we call a goal sting. So we have a goal graphic come up, we have a piece of music that would go at the same time, and then there's an announcement and a headshot would go up of the player that scored the goal. So, your graphics operators, your audio operators, your announcers, all need to be watching the match to know what's going on, so that obviously you don't announce the wrong thing or the wrong thing on the screen. The other aspect of sport presentation or infotainment is the medal ceremonies or the victory ceremonies. So as the show caller, you're responsible for show calling those as well. And something like when you've got a lot of victory ceremonies for something like the swimming or table tennis even, when you do a final session, you've often got like 2 races and then you've got 2 victory ceremonies back to back. And I don't think people realise just the stress that is going on in that control room for a victory ceremony. You've got to make sure all your flags are lined up, making sure that you've got your flags in the right order, making sure that you've got the correct anthem, making sure that all your athletes are there and your medal ceremonies team is there as well. And, you would never send anybody on until you make sure all this is correct, because as you know, and I'm sure there's people on the call that would know, if the wrong flag goes up or the wrong anthem is played, it's an international incident. So, I always, as the venue producer or presentation manager, I always position myself right next to the audio guy so I can see what button he's about to press for the anthem, just so I can make sure. And I check it about 100 times, and I always make sure there's 2 backups playing at the one time. So,
that's amazing.
And sometimes when you're working in international situations, so for example, the Asian Games, or Baku, for example, or even the Arab Games in 2011, not all the operators speak fluent English. This was a bit of a challenge. So again, you need to be visual and you need to sort of watch what's going on all the time to make sure that, everything is correct and everything's played as it should be. And look, there has been, alhamdulillah, as we say in Arabic, which means thank goodness. Basically, I've actually never had a situation where I've had a wrong flag or a wrong anthem play. I think that's because, I have so many pre-checks before it all sort of happens. So
that's amazing.
But yeah, look, I think the next one for me, as I said, we did Melbourne Commonwealth Games where I called a show called the table tennis. It was then interesting for me. I was given the opportunity then to come over to Doha for 2006, and I was given 3 days to make the decision. I was quite young then. And at that time, I think in 2006, not many Australians or many people sort of knew what Qatar or what Doha was. I think the Asian Games in 2006 was sort of the first major event that Qatar hosted. And, given 3 days, and I was like, oh my goodness, what is this place? It's the Middle East. I was young. I was a young Australian woman. I was like, okay, let's do it. And the decision, I was going to be here for almost a year. So basically, I packed up in 3 days and made the decision to come to Qatar.
Wow! And who offered you that position?
So Great Big Events offered me that opportunity, which was amazing. And the opportunity here, it was the production manager. So I was working with the technical manager to bring in all the technology across the 42 venues for sport presentation. So that was all the audio desks, it was all the vision equipment, and then of course all the teams as well to facilitate the sport presentation across all the sports. Because for the Asian Games, there's a lot of sports that aren't normally in an Olympic or a Commonwealth game program as such. You've got additional sports like wushu, which is martial arts. You've got kabaddi, which is a sport sort of which is a kabaddi. It's like touch tag, I guess you can call it. So there's all these additional sports that are not so traditional involved in the Asian Games. So that's why there were so many venues. Anyway, I made the decision to come. Luckily, I had some friends here working on the Ceremonies team because David Atkins was delivering the Ceremonies. And I'd sort of been in touch with them and said, "Oh, how is it? And what do you think?" And they said, "No, you should do it. Come." So I made the decision to come, and I still to this day remember it. It was the old Doha International Airport, which now it's so tiny compared to the new Hamad International Airport. And I remember flying in. It was early. It must have been early April. And it was about 45 degrees, and I walked out of the airport and everything was just dusty. And I thought, what have I done? Oh my goodness, what have I done? And I thought, oh my goodness, I'm here for almost a year. Oh my goodness, what have I done? And look, from then, I guess for me, the first 3 months was really tough, just finding my feet, finding, my circles that I sort of were going to work with. But from then, after those sort of 3 months, I started to interact with some of the locals as well. And I found that, the Qataris, they're so hospitable and they're such amazing people and they're so inspiring and they want to help and they want to deliver to such a high standard that, this was something that was so inspiring for me that, nothing was too hard and every, dream big, even though you think it's not going to happen, it can happen, so it was kind of the first opportunity that I'd have to sort of think a little bit outside the box to do my work. So I guess from there, I really fell in love with Doha and I really fell in love with Qatar and the people and how they, I guess, work here. And I found it really, even though a lot of things are, I guess, sometimes a little bit last minute, there's always a way to solve it. And there's always a way, there's multiple ways to, I guess you can say, multiple ways to skin a cat. And it's very true here, there is multiple ways to do things and deliver things. And I think it's, having that opportunity in 2006 to deliver that gave me the first taste of that and really become adaptable and flexible in how I work to deliver some amazing results. I mean, as I said, that was the first big major event that Qatar has delivered. And it was so successful. And, everything from the opening ceremony, which was, it was amazing, that opening ceremony with the horse going up to light the flame. It was amazing. And then through to the delivery of the actual, the sport presentation across the sports as well. There was some incredible moments in there. I mean, I show called the archery and, people think, oh, the archery, but I actually had the crowd pumping, at some stages there. It was very, very cool. It was good fun and I had a really good crowd because I think, there's a certain unique niche that follows the archery. And it can be very exciting, when you get down to sort of the last two and they're, having this sort of shoot off who's going to win. It's very, very cool. And, I was given the opportunity and thank goodness competition were actually very, very flexible in how it was delivered. And they said, look, you can play music when they hit the target and you can have, announcements. And so we actually really enhanced the archery, which was very, very cool. So, I think it was very successful, that event, and the way it was delivered was interesting and an enjoyable experience, certainly for myself. So, which I guess from that I came back to Australia, and that's actually when I was at the Sydney Opera House. Started at the Sydney Opera House. However, I was given the opportunity then to work for Auditoire, which is a French company, to come back to deliver the Arab Games in 2011. And this time I didn't hesitate. So as soon as the opportunity came up to come and deliver that, so for this one, it was the archery again. I came in as the presentation manager and also the wrestling. I came in to deliver both of these sports. And again, you know, this time for me, again, it was coming back. I've always had the feeling and the pull to come back to Qatar. I can't explain it. You know, I just had the need and the feel to come back here. So after 2011, I came back. Again, delivered a really successful event. Again, worked with some of the locals, which again were so hospitable and really wanted to showcase their country, which is something that's really exciting, and invite you into their their homes and their lives to really showcase the Arab and the Qatari hospitality. So I think from there I sort of delivered that event, came back to Australia, did a couple more years at the Opera House. And then, as you said, in 2015, I made the leap to come back here. And I think from there, I've sort of really had the opportunity to sort of come in at a manager level and a senior manager level, and really, I guess, make a mark on the events world here in Qatar, which is very exciting. So, look, as I said, it's really about the Qatari hospitality for me, and that's why they sort of, you know, invited me. I had the opportunity to come back and was invited back so many times, and you know, I really enjoy working with the people. There's a big expat community here as well, so there's a high level of expertise in Qatar as well. So to deliver these events, and you know, working with people from so many different backgrounds and different cultures, it's really interesting. It's really interesting to see how you know, people draw on their experience, particularly for the World Cup. You know, obviously we've got a lot of Russians here as well because they've just previously delivered the World Cup, just to see their experience and how they've delivered it. And then obviously moving to 2022 around how we deliver it, as in Qatar deliver it. It's an inspiring experience. And I think, you know, to have that expertise across multiple cultures and multiple people, it really comes together nicely so that you can deliver, you know, a successful event.
I think working with international groups of people is such an enriching experience. So it is part of the attractiveness of working in a foreign country and with multiple cultures. And I think the thing, especially with the sporting events, or whether it be sporting events or big shows that I've worked on, that by nature brings a lot of people and a lot of cultures together, and that makes it a very interesting experience. But I want to ask you, what's it like to be in a position of leadership as a woman in the Middle East? Because I think from a perception externally, you would see that perhaps there are some challenges or obstacles that you need to overcome. How was your experience there, maybe early on and now, or has it changed? Comment on that.
For sure. Look, I think for me, being in a leadership position now, certainly in the events team and for the World Cup, I mean, I think I feel so supported, you know, I feel so respected, and my opinion is always asked, and I'm always called upon to give my opinion. You know, I actually feel more respected, and my opinion is often listened to here more than it would be sometimes in Australia even. As I said, I really enjoy the people that I work with, and, you know, they always support me to be the best that I can be, and give me every opportunity and give me every option to have my say and do it the way that I want to do it. I think that's obviously because I have a strong background in both the technical and the operations side. And I'm not just coming in, you know, saying that I know what I'm doing when I actually, you know, when I don't, but so I do have that experience to back me up as well. But certainly, look, I work with some amazing people here. I work with some amazing companies, and certainly that the leadership within, you know, in the World Cup I feel so supported, and they, as I said, they work very, very closely with me all the time around, you know, especially for events. You know, they're very, very, my opinion is always taken, and they give me the opportunity to deliver how I want to deliver it and how I want to run my team. So I think, you know, as a woman here, I feel respected. I feel very, 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 very comfortable to offer my opinion all the time. I felt that I'm heard, certainly felt that I'm heard. And, you know, it's for me, I have never felt that, you know, I've never felt that it's difficult or hard. I always feel, that there's definitely a level of respect. You know, I often sit around the table with with big teams, and as I said, they all, and it's not just the locals, it's the international teams as well that I work with, and they often come to me for advice around certain things. You know, they all know that I've delivered multiple ceremonies. They know, well, medal ceremonies, victory ceremonies. They know that I've delivered multiple events all over the world, so they often come to me to ask my opinion on things. And how to do things. You know, certainly there's some challenges here around. One of the biggest challenges here is importing fireworks into Qatar, for example. It's very difficult. We can't store fireworks or pyrotechnics in Qatar. It all needs to be delivered.
Because it's too hot?
They're basically, there's just, they think it's high risk. But yeah, I think heat is one of the things, but basically there's no storage of live explosives here in Qatar at all. So everything needs to be brought in for events. In order to do that, you need to get all sorts of special clearances, and it needs to be under escort when it comes in through customs and through the immigration. So, you know, there's a big process that needs to go on to actually bring the pyro in. And I seem to be the only person that knows how to do that. So every time the pyro is needed, I get
You're the pyro girl.
Renee, we need to get the pyro in. Can you do it? I'm like, of course. So I work with I work very, very closely with, yeah, it's very, very funny. So I work very, very closely with you know, the event management companies to bring those pyro in. And, you know, I sort of know everybody at the Ministry of Interior and all the police and everything. Oh, here she is again. She wants pyro again. What does she want now? So it's a little bit funny that, you know, here she comes again. And
I see you coming.
I see me coming. And look, I think with this, certainly within the Supreme Committee, I have a little bit of the reputation as the event woman, or the ceremonies woman, because I've done so many inaugurations for the stadiums now. I've sort of delivered multiple opening ceremonies for these stadiums now. So I have a bit of a reputation, you know, here comes this crazy Australian woman in an abaya, what's she going to ask for now? Or are you going to burn the pitch today with your pyrotechnics? Or what are you going to do today to ruin the field, or something like that? So I have a bit of a reputation. But look, they all know, you know, I'm usually doing what's best for the ceremony, or what's best for, you know, to achieve the best outcome. So sometimes there's a little bit of a negotiation that has to happen. But look, we always get there, and look, you know, it's always a positive experience. And usually the feedback, I don't seem to have to, I don't know, I don't seem to have to yell or get angry or anything like that. There's a bit of a negotiation process that goes on, and then we get on with it. So it's, look, it's, as I said, I think it's because I have, you know, delivered so many times, and I have the backing of being able to deliver in terms of event operations, sometimes in some challenging environment. You know, often it can be last minute, or, you know, we get told of an event a week before, and I have to go away and mobilize the team and mobilize the event management agency, and we all just have to bring it together. So look, there's certainly times where, you know, there's been a lot of hours worked and not a lot of sleep happening, but, you know, we always find a way to deliver. And as I said, it's always with the support of the management and the leadership, and you know, it's very much appreciated, you know, and they, as I said, they always support and they encourage, and, you know, my opinion is always heard. So which is really, I respect that a lot from their side as well, and I appreciate it. So
I think that's great. That's really, really good that you've got that situation there. You said that probably bigger budgets, and they dream big over there. Is there any other differences that you would say that you would compare Australia to the Middle East in terms of the way they work, or practices?
Look, I would say that, you know, certainly, I mean, look, in terms of budget, you know, we're very reasonable. We always have to try to find the best budget. You know, we don't go over and above. You know, we always need to look and work on that budget. But look, certainly in terms of working here, you know, you always have to be on your toes. You always have to have a plan A, B, C, D, E, F, I don't know, X, Z. So, you know, you always just need to be on your toes, and you need to be, I guess, just adaptable and flexible, and the ability to not go into a mad panic when things change, because because there's so many stakeholders. You have so many stakeholders that you're working with all the time, and that could be from all levels. You're often managing up, down, sideways, around in a circle, diagonally, and there's so many stakeholders that have an opinion on so many things. That often things are changed at the last minute. You can have that plan in place, and you can be going with that plan, and it's all going very, very well. But then you have, your last minute change. Look, and I think it happens everywhere in the world, but sometimes here it happens more than usual. And, again, when it does happen, this is when you need to have your network and your, the key people that you can rely on and trust to make those changes. So, you need to have those relationships with venue management, with security, with facilities, with your event management company. And you need to have that trust that they understand that what you're asking for, you're doing it not for your own personal gain, but you're doing it for the better of the project. And I think once you have that trust from those functional areas or those people that can support you, they will go above and beyond. I've had situations where, I've had to change the whole creative for an event, or I've had situations where I've had to change content for an event 2 hours before, and it's all about having, being calm, about working through the process, working through the changes, and then calling on those stakeholders or calling on those people to actually support you to deliver. And things here, I guess, they do change quickly sometimes. Mm-hmm. And, particularly when it's a big change, for example, we you start with 5 cast and all of a sudden you have 1,000 cast and you need to be able to bring them into the venue. How are they accredited in the space of 24 hours? It's about having that relationship with the accreditation team. Guys, I really need your support. Or, for example, we need the Amiri band to come in and play the national anthem. There's 200 of them. They don't have accreditation. Security, how can we get them in? How can we deliver on this? How do we go and get them accredited? Guys, I really need your support to do this. And always, I find that I have that support, and they will go above and beyond to help that I can deliver that. And they will never let me fall, which is great, and they will always come together to support me and make sure that we can make those changes quickly and be able to deliver. So I think there's a bit of a philosophy here that we're all in this together, and that we all want to support each other, and we're all here to deliver one goal, which is to deliver an amazing event. So and you really feel that we're like a family, and we all work together to really achieve that, because often, when we're doing these tournaments or events, it's the same team that work across all of these events. So, I think, we all know how each other works, and we all know we have that relationship where you can just pick up the phone or send a WhatsApp or whatever it may be. Guys, I need your help. And they will come. They will come help. They will come running. Which is really great.
Well, that's the kind of relationships that you want to have, really, isn't it? So.
Absolutely.
Amrita, hello, Amrita. Thanks for watching. She says, how does one make a start to work in a new region like the Middle East, events and ceremonies? You had a very particular path, but if somebody was trying to get into your area and your world, how would you suggest they begin that path?
Look, I think for me, and I think for other people sort of coming in, I think starting to sort of, I guess start. Have some experience, have a little bit of experience, probably not in the region, so that you actually come in here with some fundamental experience in the events or the events world. I think it would be very hard for someone to come in here that doesn't have, at least a couple of years and the fundamentals of event management or event operation experience, because I think you'd be just going, what is going on here, if you didn't have some fundamentals behind you. And look, I think, particularly working here, it's really about, having a connection with someone here, and then being able to use that connection, for them to help you to get some work. So often, I get people recommended to me through other people, and then I will, go through an interview process with them to see if I think they'll fit into the team. A lot of the times here, we interview people based on their skill set and not based on a position as such. And it's like a giant puzzle. We try to fit people in based on their experience and their expertise. Because it's very hard to, to try and fit a round peg into a square hole, I guess. So we are very much about trying to find someone for the position as opposed to interviewing for a certain position. But certainly, look, platforms like LinkedIn are really, really good, to be able to see what's out there and available. The other platform that a lot of the jobs go up on is Indeed, which is quite a strong platform here in the Middle East. But then, of course, look around for the bigger companies that are hiring directly. The event management companies, you could go to them directly as well. They're often looking for people. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot of, I guess, who you know, but at the same time, you need to have the fundamentals to come in here and work, because I think if you don't have those fundamentals, it does make it very, very, very challenging. At least have a bit of a concept around how you would run an event, right through the full event cycle, right through, from the pre-production, from the scoping through to the project charters, through to setting up the team, moving through to the actual delivery phase, and then obviously the post-production and the event reporting sort of phase and event wrap-up phase. So, when I first came in here as a very younger, I guess, project manager, or I guess event manager, I did find it challenging. As I said, those first 3 months when I first came in, it was probably one of those hardest 3 months of my life, to be honest, just to understand. Yes, I had some experience, but obviously just to work out, how things are done here and how I was actually going to deliver what I needed to deliver for this particular project. And luckily I had that support network with people that I already knew here, and they sort of were able to support me and say, right, you need to try and maybe look at doing it like this. So
because it's enough as a challenge to deal with the culture shock and being out of your own normal routine and dealing with a new environment. You really want to have to lean back onto that skill set that you do have, because that's what you're going to have to, that's all you can lean on to deliver. Everything else is new, right?
Absolutely. And look, I think, it's good to have a little bit of experience coming in here as well, because if you do choose to leave here again, I don't know that you want to be always using what you've just learned here to then go into another thing, another position. It's good. Yeah, it's good to have, I think, a strong skill set coming in, and then you learn, I guess, ways to be a little bit more flexible and adaptable here, and then that builds on your experience, and then it's good you can then move on to other projects. And I think, working, I guess, if I was to ever go back to Australia, I think anything in Australia would be quite, I wouldn't say easy, but less challenging.
Absolutely. Brioni has another good question. Calling a show in theatre, you'd normally call off a script. So is there an equivalent for events? What does that look like?
Yeah, so I think when I produce my when I produce a cue sheet, basically it's all done from what we have. So competition will provide, or the federation that's actually the tournaments for. So, for example, AFC, which is the Asian Federation, Asian Championships, they have like a run order, like key timings for the day. So basically, when the teams arrive on site, or when the when the match needs to kick off, when gates open, So basically, that forms the basis of your cue sheet. From there, you need to look at what your sponsor commitments are, what your what TVCs, what contents you have, what graphics you need to play out. If it's particularly for football, there's certain protocols you need to hit. So this team warm up on the field prior to the match, this team headshots that need to go out, and then there's like what they call a pre-match ceremony. I'm sure most people have seen a football match where the banners go out, there's a center circle, and then the teams walk out, and there's anthems that need to be played. Now, they all have certain times. So basically you work back from your zero time, which is your kickoff time usually. So you work back from that zero time, and then, you work back to your gates open time, and that's how you formulate the cue sheet. So again, it's same for swimming. So obviously you have your times for the match, for the race to start. So basically you work back from that time. So however long you think it's going to take you to introduce the 7 lanes one by one, how long they're going to walk onto the field of play, and then you work back from that. So it's all about the key timings. It's a little bit different in sport where it's not so much fluid like where you'd work from a script and you're working towards music as such. You need to hit the timings in sport, which, I mean, it's In reality, it's a little bit actually easier because, you know, when you look at your cue sheet, you just got to make sure that you're queuing as per the timings, and then you should be fine. But of course, as I said to you before, you need to have the ability to sort of fly quickly if things happen, matches change, things happen quickly, and you need the ability to move quickly, you know, for your goals, for your whatever may happen. If you have a VAR, for example, in football, you know, there's a whole process that happens with VAR, which is the referee, you know, if there's a situation that happens and they don't know if it's a goal or if it's a penalty or whatever it may be, there's a whole situation of graphics that need to go up, the live feed needs to go up. So, you know, your operators really need to be on point to actually get that out and onto the screen. So, because, you know, it's not just the spectators that are relying on stuff like that, it's the media that are in the venue too, it's your VIPs, it's your officials. So yes, so each sport has a different protocol and different timings. So certainly it would vary on the sport, but yes, basically the protocols come from the sport, and then around those key protocols, you work in to your cue sheet what you need to do, what you need to hit. And
your software of choice is Excel, Google Sheets? Is it a bespoke program? What do you use?
So I like to use Excel because I can put my formulas in, and basically all I need to do, the way I set it up, is I set a kickoff time, and then all my cue sheet all the formulas just update, and then all I need to do is just change the duration of things, and then it all updates fairly quickly. So because the good thing is with football, you know, most of the time there's a standard match protocol. So, you know, say it's a 5 o'clock kickoff, you then put your 5 o'clock kickoff in, and then gates are usually minus 3 hours to kick off. So basically you put your 5 o'clock in, and then everything before that, all my times just automatically update based on my formula that I've got in there. So it's a little bit, you know, it's a little bit.
I can tell you enjoy that. I love that about you.
I do. And look, we use, you know, in football, we have things called like the daily run sheet. So all functional areas input into that about their movements and what they're doing during the day. And look, you know, particularly for football, it's really an integrated approach because it's not just about us. It's not just about infotainment or sport presentation. We have to be in line with venue management. We have to be in line with competition because they could be using the field for something. I can't be doing my rehearsals when the team's there doing warm up, you know. I need to integrate with security to let them know what I'm doing. So we use this, we use it on MS Teams, and everyone puts their input in it. It's just like it's an Excel spreadsheet in MS Teams, and everyone puts their duration, what their activities for the day. And so then everyone knows, basically everyone knows what's going on. And so we don't have any sort of issues around timing or access to field of play. So it's good. And as I said, it's all about those relationships. You know, if you do have a clash, you need to then go and have the conversation with the functional area and negotiate who's doing what when. But look, most of the time it's, you know, because of those relationships, we can overcome, you know, specific time issues and stuff like that. So, awesome. But yes, Excel is a wonder.
Absolutely. So before we finish up, tell us a little bit now about the World Cup. What's the situation? What are you working on? How's that coming together? And what are you looking forward to?
So with my team, so what we have is we have the events team. So the events team sit in the marketing department for the Supreme Committee. And as I'm the event senior manager, so basically my team looks after all the event operations across all the events somehow. So it could be it's a huge scope. So basically it could be driving an event, which is any sort of official FIFA or any official event. So it could be a draw for the World Cup. We've just done the FIFA Arab Cup draw. Most recently, it could be a dinner, it could be a congress. So my team lead on those events because they're official events as such. And when I say lead, all the functional areas sort of report into us, and we take the lead on the project and deliver for the project. For the other sort of side of that is we support. So all the other functional areas. So it could be the volunteers team, it could be the transport team, it could be the guest management team. They'll have workshops that they could invite key stakeholders to, and we would support in terms of the event operation function. So we would, you know, offer services around looking at venues, scoping venues, and then being there for the actual event operational delivery on the day of the event as well. So making sure it all comes together for a successful event. So that's really for the, I guess, the what we call the World Cup side of things. We also have a corporate event team, which also sits under me, and they are really responsible for anything sort of corporate around the promotion of the World Cup. So basically, you've just said I've just come back from Russia, so we took part in the St. Petersburg Economic Forum, where we showcased the World Cup and showcased what's coming up as part of the World Cup, and I guess promoting Qatar, promoting the World Cup, and we took little stadium models that everyone can see what the stadiums look like. Obviously, lots of people were coming to ask about ticket sales, about hospitality, stuff like that. So basically, I have a team that goes out. It could be exhibitions, it could be a booth, it could be a forum, it could be a convention, it could be anything where we showcase the World Cup. And then also as part of my team, we also look after the infotainment or sport presentation, as we call it. So infotainment is how FIFA refer to the sport presentation. And we will do the infotainment across all of the every match for the World Cup. So that's quite a lot. And then of course, the 8 stadiums. So it's a lot of work. But look, FIFA have very specific protocols, and we need to deliver that across all matches and across all the 8 stadiums. So we've got a lot coming up. We've got a lot to scope for the next next 18 months. But look, it's an exciting time. We have delivered quite a lot up until now. I've so far been involved in opening 3 of the 8 stadiums so far. So I've done the opening ceremony. I did a virtual opening ceremony right in the middle of COVID times for Education City, which was quite unique. We had a vision package, a film put together, which was really around, hope for the future and hope and thanking our healthcare professionals here. It's available online if people want to see that. But I was very much involved in creating that content and that film.
What's it called if people are looking for it?
If you just look for the Education City opening ceremony, and you'd be able to find it'd be on YouTube. You'd be able to find it there. And then we did like a virtual opening for the actual stadium as well, where we had we actually brought in fireworks into the stadium. We filmed it, and then it was live broadcast. But we didn't actually have spectators in the stadium. So you mean you brought in the fireworks, not we brought in the fireworks. We brought in both. Yeah. Well, yes, it was. Yes.
Fireworks girl.
Yeah, fireworks girl. So that was something that was really unique and really nice to be a part of. And then we've had Al Janoub, which is the one you can see there with like the trophy sort of coming out of the middle. That was the other opening ceremony. That was my first stadium inauguration here in Qatar, which was exciting. The one in the middle there is Rayyan, or Ali bin Ahmed Stadium now. That was done late last year, and this was the first event we actually did post-COVID. So we were at 30% of spectators for this, and it was quite spectacular, and it was nice to have, that atmosphere in the stadium and people in the stadium. So, look, there's a lot coming up. We've delivered a lot, and a lot more to come. So it's really exciting to be a part of it, and it's very inspiring to be a part of it. And working with so many inspiring people, it's something that's really exciting for me. So. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Renee. It's just wonderful to hear about your career, and also just to still how passionate you are from when I knew you many, many years ago. But even though you've grown in responsibility and what an overwhelming task you have ahead of you, I wish you all the best for the World Cup. Really good to see you, and just thank you for sharing with us today your story and your experience. And if anyone wanted to ask you any further questions, is it okay if they reach out to you, and where's the best way to find you?
Yep. So you can probably, I'm on LinkedIn, so please feel free you can drop me a line on LinkedIn. I'm quite active, so certainly, LinkedIn's probably the best way. And then you can message me on there or connect with me on there. So
wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Renee, and thanks everybody for watching today. Really appreciate you joining us, and we'll talk to you again soon, I'm sure, Renee, and the best of luck for the 2022.
Thanks, Anna. Thank you so much, and thank you to everyone listening.
Bye for now.
Bye.